It started with just a single word, a subtle shift in their tone, a flicker of something behind their eyes. You weren't sure what it was at first. Maybe tension, maybe challenge, but you felt it. Like an invisible line had been drawn across the conversation, and suddenly you were no longer just talking. You were standing on the edge of something fragile. Your heartbeat quickened, your breath caught in your throat. Your body recognized it before your mind did. This was no longer a casual exchange. This was about to become a test of how far you've come, or how fast you'll fall. You want to stay composed, but inside, you're already bracing for impact. The words hang in the air, charged like a storm before lightning strikes. You sense the urge rising, maybe to snap, to defend, to throw a sharp reply right back. You can almost feel the words climbing your throat, begging for release. This is the exact moment where most people lose control. One slip, one emotional spike, and the whole thing erupts into chaos, but something inside you whispers, "Wait, not this time, not today. This is the moment everything can go wrong." But it's also the moment you realize everything can go right. There's a part of you that wants to unleash, to say everything that's been simmering beneath the surface. You want to be heard, to be right, to put the other person in their place. But then there's another part of you, the quieter voice, the wiser one, that knows none of that will actually help. Because truthfully, no one has ever yelled their way to real respect. No one has ever won a battle of words and come out emotionally fulfilled. That need to dominate, to defend, it feels good for a second, maybe, but then regret, broken trust, more distance, and you know this. You've been here before. We've all been here before. These are the moments that define us, not because of what's said, but because of how we respond. You don't get to choose when tough conversations happen. They don't come with warnings or invitations. They just arrive. And when they do, they ask you a question. Who are you going to be right now? It's easy to stay calm when everything is smooth. But when the temperature rises, when emotions flare, when you feel misunderstood or attacked, that's where real mastery begins. And the world doesn't teach this. The world teaches retaliation. Clap back. Win. Don't let them walk all over you. But what the world forgets to mention is that when you fight fire with fire, all you're left with is ashes, charred words, burned bridges. Staying calm isn't about letting people treat you however they want. It's about controlling what you bring to the table. It's about knowing that you can't control their words, their tone, or their intentions. But you can control your own peace. You can protect it like your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. Your peace determines your clarity determines your decisions, and your decisions, they shape everything. But calm doesn't happen by accident. It's not passive, it's a decision. A powerful, repeated decision to pause when you want to react, to breathe when you want to burst, to step back just enough to see the whole picture before saying anything at all. That's what strength really looks like, not volume, not rage, but restraint. Real, grounded restraint that says, I will not let this moment define me. I will define it, and when you choose calm, something else happens. Something most people never even notice. You begin to gain control of the room. While others escalate, your stillness becomes a force. You're not feeding the fire, so the flames have nowhere to go. People lean in, they pay attention. You shift the energy, not by overpowering, but by owning your presence. You become the calm in the storm, and storms respect the calm. But it's not always easy. Sometimes the people you love the most will say things that cut the deepest. Sometimes coworkers will test your boundaries without realizing it. Sometimes you'll be tired, already on edge, and someone will push you a little too far. That's why the real work begins before the conversation ever starts. It begins with training your mind to pause, with building the muscle of emotional regulation, with reminding yourself over and over again, I am not here to win arguments. I am here to master myself. It begins with asking yourself better questions in the heat of the moment. Is what I'm about to say going to make things better, or just make me feel better for a second? Am I responding from intention or from injury? If I look back on this moment tomorrow, will I be proud of how I handled it? These questions can save you. They can pull you out of the spiral, because once you engage from emotion alone, you've already handed over the keys. You've given your power to the situation. But when you stay calm, when you hold your ground with grace, you walk out of that conversation with your integrity intact. Even if it was difficult, even if they never saw your side. And that's worth everything. It's tempting to believe that staying calm means you didn't care enough to fight. But that couldn't be further from the truth. You stayed calm because you did care about yourself, about your future, about the kind of energy you want to bring into this world. You didn't match chaos with chaos. You chose maturity. That's courage. That's growth. That's real emotional strength. And the best part, every time you choose calm, it gets easier. Every time you choose to breathe instead of break, your mind remembers. It learns, it rewires. Eventually, what once felt impossible starts to feel natural. The reactions shrink, the peace grows, and you begin to walk through life with a kind of quiet confidence that no storm can shake. So the next time the tension rises, the next time someone challenges you, the next time you're standing at that emotional edge, remember this. The power is not in how loud you can be, it's in how steady you can stay. That's where real control begins, and once you've tasted that kind of control, you'll never want to give it away again. Your reactions are not random, they're rehearsed, repeated, wired into you through years of experiences, moments of stress, moments of fear, moments where you felt unseen, unheard, or unsafe. Your nervous system remembers what your mind forgets. That's why in the middle of a difficult conversation, you suddenly feel like a different person, like something takes over. You say things you later regret. You shut down when you know you should speak up. Or you lash out even though you promised yourself you wouldn't. It's not because you're weak. It's because you've been conditioned. But conditioning can be broken. Patterns can be changed. The first step is understanding the why. Why do you react the way you do when pressure rises? Why does a specific tone make your stomach twist? Why does criticism feel like a personal attack, even when it's not? These aren't flaws. They're signals. And if you stop long enough to listen, they'll tell you exactly where the work needs to happen. You see, most people live on autopilot. They go through life never pausing to question why they explode in anger or freeze in fear. They just assume that's who I am. But it's not. It's who you've practiced being, and anything you've practiced can be unlearned. So let's break it down. When someone says something that triggers you, your brain scans for danger. It doesn't check if the person is right or wrong. It doesn't ask if this is the right time to respond. It jumps straight into protection mode, and that's not your fault. It's biology. It's survival. Your body wants to keep you safe, even if there's no real threat. It treats a tough conversation like a battlefield. But here's the truth. Most conversations aren't wars. They're misunderstandings. And when you respond like a soldier instead of a seeker, you miss the opportunity to grow, connect, and lead with clarity. The way out of this trap is awareness. You have to become aware of what's happening while it's happening. That takes practice, but it's possible. Start by noticing your physical signals, your jaw tensing, your fists clenching, your breath speeding up. These are early warnings. Your body is saying, we've been here before. Get ready to defend. But instead of diving headfirst into a reaction, pause, take one breath. Then another. That tiny moment of interruption is the beginning of emotional freedom. It gives your thinking brain a chance to step in before your survival brain hijacks the scene. You might still feel the intensity. You might still feel the urge to react, but now you're observing it, not drowning in it. That's the shift. You go from being inside the emotion, to watching it. And in that space, you find choice. You can ask yourself, what's really going on here? Is this about them? Or is it touching something deeper in me? Most of the time, your emotional response has less to do with the person in front of you and more to do with a wound you haven't healed. Maybe it's the way your voice was silenced as a child. Maybe it's the way you were blamed, misunderstood, or never given the benefit of the doubt. The past echoes loudly in the present until we learn to recognize its voice. Once you begin to recognize your emotional patterns, you can begin to disrupt them. That doesn't mean suppressing how you feel. It means learning how to respond asterisk with asterisk emotion, not asterisk from asterisk it. There's a difference. When you respond asterisk with asterisk emotion, you bring your full, honest self to the moment, but in a grounded, thoughtful way. When you respond asterisk from asterisk emotion, you let the feeling take the wheel, and it usually crashes the car. So how do you start responding with intention instead of reactivity? You start by building emotional vocabulary. Most people only have a handful of labels for how they feel: angry, sad, happy, stressed. But emotions are nuanced. There's a big difference between feeling rejected and feeling disappointed, between feeling overwhelmed and feeling unsupported. The more specific you can get, the more clarity you have. And clarity leads to better communication. When you can say, "I'm feeling dismissed," instead of yelling, "You never listen," you shift the energy. You open the door for connection instead of conflict. But even with clarity, even with awareness, you'll still face moments where your old habits fight to reclaim control. That's normal. Growth isn't a straight line. You'll have days where you slip, where you say something you shouldn't, where your reaction gets the best of you. Don't let those moments define your journey. Let them teach you. Reflect, not to shame yourself, but to understand what triggered you. What was the real emotion under the surface? What can you do differently next time? Every mistake becomes a lesson if you're willing to look it in the eye. And remember this: emotional mastery doesn't mean you feel less. It means you feel asterisk, with more understanding, more compassion, and more control. You start to see the difference between a momentary frustration and a deeply rooted insecurity. You stop reacting to everything that bothers you and start responding only to what truly matters. That shift is powerful. It gives you back your energy. It protects your relationships. It allows you to lead, even when the room is full of tension. When you break the pattern of emotional reactivity, you break cycles that may have lasted for generations. You become the person who doesn't just repeat the story, you rewrite it. You become a safe space, not just for others, but for yourself. And that inner safety, that unshakable calm, it's not just a gift. It's a responsibility, because once you've tasted what it feels like to stay grounded while the world around you spins, you'll never want to go back. So take this seriously. Train your pause, observe your reactions. Question your triggers. Practice the art of choosing your response, because every time you do, you reclaim a piece of your power. You stop living on autopilot and start living on purpose. And in a world that constantly pulls at your emotions, being calm isn't just an advantage. It's your secret weapon. Calm is not found in the middle of peace and quiet. It's found in the fire. When everything in you wants to react, when your chest tightens, when your thoughts race, when the words forming in your head are sharper than you mean asterisk, that's asterisk when calm matters the most. And the truth is, you can't just hope to stay calm when that moment comes. You have to train for it. You have to build it. Calm is not something you stumble into. It's something you strengthen like a muscle, a skill that requires effort, attention, and intention. The chaos isn't going to stop coming, but your response to it can change everything. One of the most powerful tools you'll ever use in these moments is your breath. It sounds simple, even silly, but it's profound. When your emotions start to rise, your breath becomes shallow and rapid. That sends a message to your brain that you're in danger, which escalates your stress response. But the reverse is also true. When you consciously slow your breathing, even just for a few seconds, your brain gets the signal that you're safe. That alone can start to bring you back to center. You don't need a perfect technique. Just inhale slowly, hold for a moment, and exhale even slower. Do it again and again. You'll feel it. Your heart slows, your thoughts clear, and that overwhelming wave starts to settle. But breath alone isn't always enough. That's where curiosity comes in. When someone says something that triggers you, the natural reaction is to defend or attack. But what if, instead of reacting, you got curious? What if you asked yourself, why are they saying this? What's going on beneath the surface? It shifts your focus away from taking it personally and moves you into a place of observation. Curiosity creates space. It interrupts the emotional chain reaction that leads to regret. You begin to see that maybe their anger is really fear, maybe their rudeness is insecurity, maybe it's not about you at all. That shift in mindset doesn't excuse bad behavior, but it does protect your peace. This is where people confuse calm with weakness. They think if you don't fight back immediately, you're letting someone win. But what they don't realize is that you're choosing not to engage in a fight that goes nowhere. You're not avoiding the truth. You're rising above the noise. You're conserving your energy for something more meaningful. You can address the issue without matching their intensity. You can be direct, honest, and clear without losing your composure. That's what true strength looks like. It's silent, steady, and deeply grounded. Another underrated but incredibly powerful tool is silence. Most people feel the need to fill every space in a conversation. Especially when things get uncomfortable, silence feels unbearable. But in reality, silence is a weapon, a wise, controlled pause that disarms escalation. When someone raises their voice or says something cutting, silence can be your shield. Not everything needs a reaction. Not every accusation needs a defense. Sometimes the most powerful response is no response. Just a calm, collected presence that refuses to be shaken. You can also ground yourself physically. In a heated conversation, your mind wants to escape. It starts pulling you into imagined outcomes, worst case scenarios, or past experiences that mirror the present. Your job is to bring yourself back. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel your spine against the chair. Notice your surroundings. Anchor yourself in what is real right now. That single act can stop your mind from spiraling into panic or anger. It reconnects you with the present moment, which is the only place you can make calm decisions. And if things get too intense, if you feel yourself slipping out of control, you're allowed to pause the conversation. You can say, "I need a moment to gather my thoughts." That's not weakness, that's wisdom. Taking a break doesn't mean avoiding. It means making sure you show up as your best self, not your triggered self. You're allowed to take a breath, to walk away for a few minutes, to return when your mind is clearer. Conversations held in emotional storms rarely end well, but when you allow yourself a moment of clarity, everything shifts. Preparation is key. You can't wait for high-stress conversations to practice calm. You have to build that calm daily. That might mean journaling through your emotions instead of venting them impulsively. It might mean meditating for 5 minutes every morning, training your mind to slow down. It might mean rehearsing hard conversations in your head and planning how you'll respond instead of react. Calm isn't just for the moment. It's built in the hours before it ever arrives. There will still be moments where you feel overwhelmed. You might still get caught off guard, but the more you use these tools, the quicker you'll return to center. The faster you'll recognize when you're being pulled into drama, and the easier it will be to step back. It's not about being perfect. It's about progress. Every time you stay calm when you used to explode, every time you take a breath when you used to lash out, every time you choose peace over pride, you're growing. You're evolving. People will start to notice it. They'll come to you in chaos because they trust your stillness. They'll feel safer around you because you're not emotionally volatile. They'll listen more, argue less. That's influence, that's leadership, and it doesn't come from control over others. It comes from control over yourself. Calm is contagious. Your energy affects the people around you more than you realize. When you hold steady, you invite others to do the same. You become the thermostat, not the thermometer. You set the tone. You regulate the emotional temperature. And sometimes that's all it takes to shift an entire conversation from conflict to connection. It takes time, it takes patience. It takes moments where you fail and have to start over. But every effort counts, every breath matters. Every pause is a victory. You're not just learning how to survive tough conversations. You're learning how to transform them. How to walk into tension and bring clarity. How to face criticism and stay grounded. How to be challenged without becoming chaotic. That is what separates those who live reactively from those who lead their lives intentionally. And when you begin to master that, no conversation will ever control you again. You'll enter every moment with confidence, not because you know what they'll say, but because you know who you'll be no matter what they say. And that kind of calm, that kind of control, it's not just a skill, it's a superpower. Most people walk into difficult conversations already armed for battle. Their words are loaded, their posture stiff, their mind rehearsing every possible attack and defense. They're not listening, they're preparing to be right. They're not understanding, they're waiting to be heard first. And in this mental battleground, nobody wins. Relationships fracture, trust erodes, and the real message gets lost in the noise of ego and emotion. But there's another way, a quieter way, a stronger way, a way of communication that doesn't destroy but builds, even when the topic is hard, even when the stakes are high. Mastering your emotions in tough conversations isn't about suppressing what you feel. It's about using what you feel wisely. Your emotions aren't enemies, they're messengers. When you feel hurt, it means something matters to you. When you feel angry, it means a boundary may have been crossed. When you feel anxious, it means uncertainty is threatening your sense of safety. These aren't problems, they're signals. But most people never get past the noise to hear the message. They explode or shut down instead. And in doing so, they hand their power to the very thing that upset them. So what does it mean to truly stay calm when the words are sharp, the tone is harsh, and the room feels tense? It means you stay connected to your values even when others disconnect from theirs. It means you choose your response based on the outcome you want, not the emotion you feel in the heat of the moment. It means you lead the conversation not with force but with presence, because real influence doesn't come from dominating a conversation. It comes from elevating it. To do this, you must enter every difficult conversation with a clear intention. Ask yourself, before the first word is spoken, what do I want to create with this conversation? If the answer is clarity, then speak with clarity. If the answer is understanding, then listen with empathy. If the answer is healing, then approach with gentleness. You cannot create peace through a tone of war. You cannot create trust through sarcasm. You cannot ask for openness while guarding yourself with anger. The energy you bring is the energy you receive, every time, and in that space, listening becomes your greatest tool. Not the kind of listening that waits for its turn to speak. The kind of listening that slows down, leans in, and actually seeks to understand the heart behind the words. This kind of listening changes the room. It makes people feel seen, heard, respected, and often. That's what most people are fighting for anyway, not to win, but to feel understood. You don't have to agree with someone to understand them. You don't have to accept their view to acknowledge their feelings. Understanding isn't surrender, it's strategy. Because once someone feels understood, their defenses lower. Their voice softens, their need to argue diminishes, but you can't give what you don't have. And that's why self-awareness is your first responsibility. Know your triggers. Know the patterns that pull you out of calm. Know the wounds that make you extra sensitive to certain words or tones. The more honest you are about your emotional landscape, the more control you'll have over it. You'll see the wave of frustration rising before it crashes. You'll feel the fear behind your silence before it turns into resentment. You'll recognize when the conversation is no longer about them, but about the story you're replaying from the past. And that awareness gives you power, not over others, but over yourself. When emotions do rise, and they will, it's what you do next that defines the moment. You might feel a rush of anger, a sting of betrayal, or a wave of shame. That's okay. Feel it, breathe through it, but don't act from it. Let it move through you like a wave, not a weapon. Emotional maturity isn't about feeling less, it's about channeling those feelings into something productive. Speak your truth, but with grace. Set your boundaries, but with compassion. Defend your worth, but without destruction. One of the most powerful sentences you can use in a tough moment is, "Help me understand." Those 3 words can disarm tension faster than any argument. They show humility. They invite dialogue. They create a bridge where there would have been a wall. Most people want to be heard more than they want to be right. And when you give them space to speak, even when you disagree, you model what respect looks like. And respect, more than dominance, is what turns conflict into connection. You also have to learn to let go. Not every battle is worth fighting. Not every comment needs a correction. Some things are better left unanswered, not because you're weak, but because you're wise. Silence is not surrender, it's selection. You are selecting what deserves your energy. You're choosing what moves you forward versus what keeps you stuck in cycles of emotional warfare. Sometimes, the greatest show of strength is walking away without needing to win. Over time, as you practice calm under pressure, something incredible happens. People begin to trust you more, not just because you speak well, but because they feel safe around you. They know you won't use their vulnerability against them. They know you won't blow up over disagreement. They know you'll listen, even when it's hard. That kind of safety is rare. That kind of presence is powerful. It makes people open up. It deepens relationships. It transforms workplaces and families alike. But don't expect perfection. There will still be moments when you react, when your voice rises, when your patience snaps, when your emotions spill over before you can catch them. That's okay. Apologize. Reflect. Reset. Mastery is not a straight line. It's built in the mess. And every time you come back to calm, you're building the emotional resilience that separates leaders from followers, peacekeepers from peacemakers. You are the thermostat, not the thermometer. You set the emotional temperature of every room you walk into. And the more calm you bring, the more calm you invite. You teach people how to treat you, how to speak to you, and how to navigate discomfort through your example, not your demands. That is influence, that is strength, and that is the result of mastering your emotions in the places that test you the most. So next time you find yourself in a conversation that makes your hands sweat and your jaw tighten, remember who you are. Remember what you've practiced. Remember that calm isn't something you wait to feel. It's something you choose to create. And when you choose it over and over again, no matter how intense the moment, you don't just survive the hard conversation. You rise above it. You lead it, and in doing so, you not only protect your peace, you inspire others to find theirs.